story begins with an ice cream truck driving along the streets of Osaka. Inside the truck sit Kate and her handler, Varric. They're assassins who are on a mission to take out a target that will be passing through that location. Kate gets down from the truck while sipping her favorite juice and approaches some guards presumed to be YAKUZA. She takes them down swiftly and hops over to the top of the building to set up her sniper gun. Soon, the target arrives and she is ready to shoot. However, the target has his daughter with him, which forces Kate to hesitate for a bit. Her handler insists she take the shot, and after a moment, she guns the man down in front of his daughter. After seeing her father shot dead in front of her eyes, the girl screams for help, but the rest of the clan abandons her. A few months later, while jogging on the streets of Tokyo, Kate comes across a family. The sight of them being happy gets Kate thinking of quitting her job and starting a family of her own. She tells Varric about this, but he insists she carries out one last mission before leaving. That night, Kate goes for a drink at a hotel bar, hoping to find some meat. Luckily, a guy named Steven swoops in and gives her what she's been craving. After their intense workout, Kate heads out for her final mission and pays our bro for a job well done. She positions herself at the top of a building and waits for her target diligently. However, she feels a little bit dizzy as she holds up her gun, and soon her target arrives. Her handler tells her to take the shot during an opening, but she hesitates due to the dizziness she feels. However, she eventually takes it, but misses. She tries again, but the target flees in a car. She tries to follow up with more shots, but it doesn't work. After this, she resorts to escaping, but continues to feel like a pregnant woman, and even throws up like one. She steals a car in an attempt to escape from the YAKUZA men, but the anime opening song playing in the car, coupled with her dizziness, forces her to drive out of control. She ends up crashing the vehicle and is rushed to the hospital. While being unconscious, memories of her past come crashing into her head, but she soon wakes up and realizes she's in a hospital. The doctor in charge of her tells her she's been poisoned by a radioactive material known as polonium-204, which has no cure. Her memory quickly drifts back to Steven and the drink he shared with her. After realizing she has about a day left to live, Kate decides not to take it lying down, but go out to find her killer. Soon, some of the YAKUZA start looking for her, but she disguises herself in a lab coat and escapes. She threatens the doctor with a gun and gets him to give her a couple of supplies that can keep her fit enough for a day. Afterwards, she goes over to Steven, who's about to get it going with his girl, and threatens him to tell her why he poisoned her. He confesses that Sato, a YAKUZA leader from the Kijima clan, ordered him to poison her. After getting this information, she goes back to Varric and informs him of her situation. He then tells her that the target she missed the previous night was Kijima, and the one she gunned down at Osaka was his younger brother, Kentaro. This means Kijima poisoned her to get revenge for his younger brother, and to help Kate get to Kijima, Varric tells her about Black Lizard, which is where the YAKUZA leaders hang out. Afterwards, Kate makes a silencer for her gun and heads over to Black Lizard. On getting there, she finds Sato and two others having dinner. She shoots one of them and points her gun at Sato, asking him for Kijima's location. Sato claims he doesn't know, so she disposes of him swiftly. She gives the last one a last chance to see his grandkids, but he also says the same. Suddenly, some guards enter, and she grabs the dude as her hostage. In the end, she pulls her trigger, but her gun jams, giving opportunity for the goons to attack her. She tries her very best to fight them off, but it isn't easy due to her failing health. In the end, she kills them all and leaves one alive. That one tells her about Kijima's niece, Annie, and where she is. After leaving Black Lizard, Kate heads over to Annie's location, which turns out to be a club. She enters the club and finds Annie dancing her life away, with two guards standing behind her. She takes care of those two and drags Annie out. Outside, she forces Annie to call her uncle, but she claims she doesn't have his number. However, his right-hand man, Renji, is accessible to her. She calls him immediately, but his underling, Shinzo, picks up the phone. Kate talks to Shinzo and threatens him to bring Kijima to her location, or else Annie dies. After the call, Shinzo informs Renji of the situation, and he commands them to bring her back. However, he gives Shinzo a special order to end Annie when he gets the chance. Meanwhile, Kate's constant bleeding starts to freak Annie out, and she wonders if she has cancer or something contagious. Kate, however, drags her into a pharmacy and gets more supplies for herself. Afterwards, she ties Annie in a bathroom and tells her she'll be safe in there. She then goes to the location she gave the Yakuzas and waits for them. Soon, Shinzo arrives with his goons, and Kate greets him. However, neither of them sees what they've come for, so a gunfight breaks out. Kate takes down the goons one by one, using her experience and skill set. While this goes on for ages, Annie cuts through her bind with her teeth and comes out of the bathroom. She runs to Shinzo and starts complaining about Kate. However, Shinzo and his goons pull their guns on her and bid her farewell. Luckily for Annie, Kate is close to her location, and she quickly guns down Shinzo and the rest. She then grabs Annie, and they run away from there. After their escape, Annie offers to join Kate on her quest, but she refuses, saying she's useless to her. However, Annie points out that she won't be able to make it on her own due to her health issues. Soon, Kate starts to break down and drops one of her shots. Annie helps her with it, and with that, Kate agrees to bring her along. Before going to look for Renji, they make a quick stop for snacks and a change of clothes. There, Annie tells Kate about her father's assassination, and how she's so sure her uncle ordered it. Kate asks her about Renji, and she tells her he lives in AI, penthouse with his boyfriend, Jojima. Together, they devise a plan to get into the penthouse without alerting the guards. Some moments later, Annie arrives at the building and bangs on the entrance door. She tells the guards that she's Kijima's niece, and that she's been chased by some people. As a result of this, they bring her to Renji's penthouse on the top floor. Meanwhile, Kate uses the distraction to sneak into the building as well. In the penthouse, Jojima is the only one present, and he is surprised to see Annie. He tells the guards to leave, and as soon as they do that, Kate comes out and threatens Jojima to give up Renji's location. However, he refuses, even with a gun pointed at his face. Suddenly, Annie makes a mistake and plays loud music instead of shutting the door, and Jojima uses the opportunity to attack Kate. For a guy who lets another man bend him over, Jojima is surprisingly strong. He capitalizes on Kate's weakness and beats her to a pulp. Annie, on the other hand, tries to help out, but she ends up shooting Kate instead. Seizing the opportunity, Jojima takes the gun from her and points it at Kate, ready to finish her off. However, Bro talks a little too much and gets his head smashed in by Annie. Afterwards, Annie gets a panic attack, due to the blood around reminding her of her father's death. Kate hugs her and gets her to calm down. Soon, Annie gets back to her usual self and helps Kate search around the penthouse to find clues about Renji's whereabouts. In the end, Kate finds guns hidden in the fridge, and Annie also finds a tracker indicating Renji's location. The two head out, and they soon get to Renji's location. Annie steps in front of his car and forces him to stop, while Kate shoots his driver and guard. Her gunshots also forced him out of the car, and they interrogated him about Kijima's location. Renji claims he doesn't know, but drops a clue that Annie quickly picks. She tells Kate she knows where Kijima is, and they leave Renji alone in the streets. Before heading to the place, Kate calls Varric and tells him she's going to finish the job. She also tells him where he'll find her body when she finally dies. Afterwards, Annie gets into a taxi with her and threatens the driver to head over to the location. Inside, Annie tells Kate about her mother being a foreigner and how she has never met her. Being the offspring of a foreigner, she has always been an outcast to her family, which is why they tried to get rid of her. However, she feels her mother is just like Kate, a strong white woman who does whatever she wants and however she wants. While she rambles on, Kate gets weaker and rests her head on her shoulder. Soon, they arrive at the location, and it turns out to be their old family house, where Kojima and his brother grew up. After highlighting from the taxi, Kate asks Annie to wait outside, while she goes in to finish her job. Annie insists at first, but after a little bit of convincing, she listens to Kate. With her last piece of strength, Kate walks into the house and finds Kojima sitting alone, with his arm bandaged up. There, she finds out the truth about who ordered Kentaro's death, and why they had to keep her quiet as well. The culprit turns out to be Renji, and his greed for power made him hire Varric to kill Kentaro, and now Kojima. The realization that she's been betrayed by the person who raised her forces, Kate back to her memories as a kid, the training, her first mission, and her first kill. Varric has always raised her to be a tool that can be used and disposed of at any given time. Meanwhile, Kojima only blames himself for not sensing the disloyalty among his men, which eventually led to his brother's death. The guilt of not being able to protect Kentaro also led him to abandon Annie as well. Now that death has come knocking, he chooses to embrace it. Kate, on the other hand, also chooses to finish her job, and Kojima turns away from her, ready to meet his maker. Meanwhile, Varric arrives at the location and meets Annie sitting outside. At first, Annie hurls insults at him, but after a brief conversation, she realizes that he is Kate's handler. Varric comes down from his vehicle and talks to her a bit more, and she listens this time. With the intention of getting her on his side, Varric tells her the truth about her father's death. He says that Kate was the one who murdered her father in cold blood, and at that moment, they hear a gunshot coming from the house. Kate comes out and sees Varric with Annie, and judging from Annie's expression, she guesses that Varric already told her the truth. She immediately starts to beg Annie, and tries to get her not to leave with Varric, but she's too angry to listen. She tries to tell her about her past, but before she could get it out, Annie shoots her out of anger. Eventually, she gets into the car and leaves with Varric. Meanwhile, Kate continues to struggle for air, and her memories rush in again. She remembers how she lost her parents, and Varric became her guardian. He trained her to become a fighter, and even gave her a mission at a young age. In that mission, she tried to kill her target with a gun, but it wasn't loaded. She ends up stabbing the target to death, and confronts Varric about sending her into danger with an empty gun. Varric admits to tricking her, and tells her it's a lesson for her to never let any situation keep her from doing what is necessary. With that motivation, she breathes in air, while Kojima, whom she didn't kill, comes over to meet her. He hands her the remaining shots she has, and it buys her another hour to finish what she started. After taking the shot, she heads out with Kojima on the quest for revenge, and also to bring back Annie. Meanwhile, Varric brings Annie to Renji's office, and he's surprised to see her still alive. He asks Varric what the next plan is, but Varric scolds him for going after Kate without his permission. However, Renji claims it was Varric who initially wanted to get rid of Kate, because she had intentions of leaving him. Still, Varric insists he shouldn't have but, and he was already finding a way to get Kate to stay. Now his life's work is dead due to his impatience. In the end, Renji apologizes for being hasty, and Varric accepts, not knowing Kojima and Kate are on the way. In the car, Kojima makes small talk with Kate, and after their conversation, he admires her even more. He then brings out a bottle of juice, which happens to be Kate's favorite. Seeing the longing expression on her face, he gives her the juice, and she gulps it down like it's literally her last drink on Earth. Soon, they arrive at the building, and Kate enters boss girl mode. A gunfight breaks out between the opposing Yakuzas, and Kate joins in on the fun. She attacks the Yakuza, switching between guns and knives, and taking them down like the pro she is. The sound of gunshots alerts Varric and Renji. In response to this, they go over to the CCTV room, only to see that their enemies are Kate and Kijima. Varric orders Annie to be kept in a separate room as a hostage, while the rest go all out on Kate and Kijima. Meanwhile, the fight below continues, and Kate almost gets called to glory. Thankfully, Kijima arrives in time and saves her a couple of minutes before her looming death. She then continues to move towards where Annie is kept, while Kijima goes over to have a word with Renji. Back at the top building, Varric leaves Renji with a gun and 2 guards, and tells him to handle Kijima on his own. Soon, Kijima catches up with Renji, and deals with his guards first. However, instead of just shooting him at point-blank range, Kijima throws him a sword, and gives him the option to fight for the leadership position. Renji unsheathes the sword, and runs his mouth a bit, thinking he'll be able to best a man with an injured arm. However, the fight is swift, and Bro ends up losing his head in more ways than one. Kate, on the other hand, arrives in the room where Annie is, but there are guards stationed to shoot on sight. They start shooting at her, and one of the bullets hits her in the leg. She lets out a scream but picks herself back up. She then creates a smoke diversion and shoots one of the guards. She stabs the other in the neck before proceeding to meet Annie. Sadly, she's held hostage by Varric, who points a gun at her head. Upon seeing Annie, Kate starts to apologize for killing her father, and claims she would take it back if she could. However, Varric claims it's no longer possible, because what she has done can no longer be erased. Kate tries to get him to reason, but Varric just blames it all on her trying to leave. He says he couldn't stand, and watch his greatest creation walk away from all the greatness the future offered. He claims he has always loved her like his daughter, but Kate believes he has only ever loved himself. They both end up shooting each other, while Annie escapes into her uncle's arms. Kate walks over to Varric to finish him off, but she changes her mind and leaves him to bleed out. Sadly, her walk doesn't take long, and she falls outside the room. Annie rushes to her and holds her while crying. Tears also flow down Kate's cheeks as she watches a cat made out of light waves at her. In the end, she closes her eyes and dies, leaving Annie in yet another moment of grief. The end. Thank you for sticking to the end of my video. Please do me the biggest favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video.